A monumental surprise once again shook the international entertainment world, this time centered on one of the most prestigious sports stages in the United States, Dodger Stadium. A big question immediately arose. How could one name, one figure, change the atmosphere of a legendary stadium to the point of making millions of eyes widen in disbelief? Taehyung, or better known by his stage name V, managed to create a moment that not only shook the spectators on site, but also penetrated the digital universe in a matter of seconds. What was even more shocking, Jungkook's astonished expression captured on camera instead became a symbol of how this event went beyond anyone's expectations, even his closest ones. This moment cannot be underestimated. Dodger Stadium is not just a sports arena. It is a symbol of American popular culture, a place where cheers are usually directed at baseball players, not K-pop stars. Yet that night, reality seemed to be reversed. Thousands stood, screamed, and many cried when Taehyung took the honorary stage to throw the first pitch. A simple event that should have only been part of the game's tradition suddenly turned into a global statement. Armies who were present, as well as those watching the live broadcast, reacted hysterically, as if that moment was the climax of a long wait full of tension. Jungkook, who was also known to be present within the circle of the event, looked so astonished that his expression went viral in minutes. Questions then arose. Did Jungkook not know of this big plan from the start, or was there actually an element of surprise deliberately maintained until the last second? The public also wondered why Jungkook's astonished expression became such a hot topic, as if Taehyung's moment was not only intended for the general audience, but also for him personally. It cannot be denied. Every move of Taehyung in the stadium seemed to convey a symbolic message. With firm steps, a gaze full of confidence, and a faint captivating smile, he was not just an artist appearing outside the music stage, but a figure marking a new boundary of Korean celebrity involvement on the global stage. Not only armies were hysterical, but international media as well, confused in explaining how one singer could shift the public's focus from one of the biggest sports games to himself. Yet behind the euphoria, critical questions began to emerge. Was this merely a promotional strategy, or a real form of global recognition of K-pop's dominance in popular culture? Why was it Taehyung chosen to appear on such a prestigious stage, while his group members were not seen in the same capacity? Furthermore, was Jungkook's astonishment truly a sincere reaction, or was there something more complex behind the expression caught on camera? Armies, known as one of the most solid fan communities in the world, did not remain silent. Within minutes, social media was flooded with video clips, photos, and emotional reactions. Words such as legendary, unbelievable, and iconic dominated global conversations. Yet amidst the euphoria, many also raised the issue of the psychological impact of that moment on Jungkook. Why did cameras so often focus on his facial expressions? Did the media deliberately frame this story as if there was an emotional tension between the two BTS members? This phenomenon reminded the public of a pattern often seen in entertainment, when a moment that should be simple is twisted into endless speculation. Yet precisely, here lay the power of the narrative built around BTS. Every small detail, every expression, every surprise always succeeded in triggering a wave of global attention. Dodger Stadium, usually only known as the home of the legendary baseball team, now became a silent witness of how one Korean star created new history. For some observers, Taehyung's presence at Dodger Stadium was an important turning point. Not only about individual popularity, but also about how Asian culture penetrated the heart of American entertainment. Yet for armies, that moment had a more personal meaning: pride, emotion, and hysteria difficult to explain in words. They saw Jungkook's astonishment, they witnessed Taehyung's authority, and they felt as if they were part of history being written. Could this moment be the beginning of a new chapter in the individual journeys of BTS members? Was Taehyung signaling that he was ready to step further beyond the group's shadow? Or instead, was this moment a form of tribute to the friendship and togetherness they had built all this time? Such questions kept circling in the minds of the public, adding tension to an atmosphere already extraordinary from the start. It cannot be denied. the emotional intensity created that night truly surpassed the limits of logic. The tears of ARMYs, the hysterical screams, even Jungkook's astonished expression, all united in one grand narrative. Taehyung not only shook Dodger Stadium, but also shook the emotional foundations of millions worldwide. And the biggest question now is this only the beginning of a series of surprises to come, or is this the peak that will be remembered forever? What is certain, the global public now realizes one thing. The surprise at Dodger Stadium was not just a momentary entertainment, but a reminder that the boundaries between sports, music, and pop culture are increasingly blurred. Taehyung proved himself a figure capable of crossing those boundaries, while Jungkook, with his sincere astonishment, became living proof of how great the impact of that moment was. Thus, the question returns and remains hanging. Have we just witnessed history, or are we merely spectators of a grand strategy not yet fully revealed? The great surprise that occurred at Dodger Stadium seemed to create an unstoppable wave of global narrative. Yet a fundamental question now must be asked with full seriousness. Did the event featuring Taehyung and astonishing Jungkook truly happen as reported, or is this merely a constructed narrative designed to create sensation? Hasn't the public often been positioned as consumers of information directed more to respond emotionally than to think rationally? Is it possible that the so-called mass hysteria at the stadium was real, or instead a media fabrication deliberately shaped to create a certain public opinion? Every video clip circulating on TikTok, every post on Twitter, every sensational title on YouTube seemed to form one red thread guiding the public to a certain conclusion. Yet, did all of that truly reflect reality? Or were we instead being presented with fragments of narrative selected and arranged in such a way to influence our way of thinking? Was Jungkook's astonished expression that went viral so quickly truly sincere, or merely the result of camera framing directed to create emotional drama? Such questions must be raised, because without a critical stance, we will only become passive spectators in the grand stage of sensationalism. Dodger Stadium, usually identical with sports tradition, was now positioned as the backdrop of a global drama full of emotion. But was that moment truly as big as described? Why did certain media only highlight Jungkook's expression and ignore the reactions of others around him? Was there a hidden motive behind the visual presentation that so emphasized one emotional aspect? Isn't it too simple if the public immediately believes without verifying the truth of that information? If that moment was truly monumental, why did strong independent verification not immediately emerge from mainstream international media that usually so quickly respond to global issues? ARMYs, as the largest fan community, are often made the main target of media narratives. Their hysterical reactions are captured, twisted, and amplified to depict as if there was an emotional explosion shaking the whole world. But did those reactions truly represent all ARMYs? Or were only a handful of individual reactions chosen, then massively publicized to make it seem as if they were a collective voice? If so, doesn't the public have the right to suspect that what happened was not an objective depiction, but a construction directed for a certain purpose? Another deeper question deserves consideration. Who actually benefited from this narrative? Was it Taehyung, seemingly gaining global spotlight? Was it Jungkook, going viral because of his astonishment? Or was it instead the media and the entertainment industry that reaped huge profits from the overflowing public attention? Was this moment perhaps designed to spark debate, create polarization, and strengthen K-pop's dominance in international discourse? If so, shouldn't we be careful not to get trapped in the narrative game arranged by certain parties? It also cannot be ignored that most of the information sources about this event came from social media platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Yet, can those sources be considered credible without independent verification? Haven't those platforms more often been spaces for visual manipulation, hoax spreading, and untested narratives? If the information we receive mostly comes from amateur video clips or subjective comments, how can we be sure the event truly matched reality? Here lies the importance of a skeptical stance. The public must not just be swept away by the current of emotion. They must be able to restrain themselves from immediately believing the narrative presented without strong evidence. Isn't it too risky to build perception only on virality? Isn't virality itself often deliberately created for certain purposes, not merely because the event was truly monumental? Are we willing to become part of a mass directed only to increase the profit of certain parties without ever gaining factual clarity? Jungkook's astonished expression, for example, is now made the center of narrative. But do we truly know the context behind that expression? Can't a camera shoot from a certain angle, ignoring the wider context, then present it as if it was the only reality? Shouldn't the public demand a more comprehensive explanation before accepting outright the conclusion that Jungkook was truly astonished because of Taehyung? What if his astonishment was caused by another factor entirely unrelated to that moment? Such questions are rarely raised, because the real answer might instead reduce the value of sensation. We must also ask, why did this moment suddenly become the center of global attention? Was it because its news value was truly high, or because the media deliberately magnified the issue so the public would be divided in emotional discussion? Hasn't such a thing happened repeatedly in the entertainment industry, where a simple moment is packaged as if becoming a grand drama? If indeed so, then the public should learn from experience not to be trapped in the same pattern. Are we truly sure that Taehyung's moment at Dodger Stadium is different from other sensational strategies we have so often seen before? Furthermore, there is a philosophical question that cannot be ignored. Did we witness fact, or merely a representation of fact that has been manipulated? Isn't it in today's digital era, truth and falsehood are increasingly difficult to distinguish? Are we able to differentiate between real events and those already polished by algorithms, editors, and marketing strategies? If we can no longer distinguish, then doesn't it mean we are actually living in a simulated world where fact and hoax no longer have a clear boundary? The hysterical reaction of armies also deserves to be questioned. Were they truly hysterical because of that moment, or was their reaction triggered instead by a narrative already built beforehand by the media? Can't massively built expectations influence how someone reacts? If so, was that hysteria authentic, or merely a reflection of media-created collective suggestion? This question is important because without a clear answer, we will only remain in a circle of emotions we never truly understand. Therefore, this reflective call must be emphasized. Do you, as readers and viewers, truly believe that the Dodger Stadium event was real as reported? Or are you beginning to see the possibility that this was merely a fabrication aimed at attracting the attention of media and the global public? Do the news, the articles, and this very script truly reflect fact? Or are they instead part of a hoax created for the sake of sensationalism? Isn't our duty as consumers of information always to be skeptical, reflective, and critical in assessing every narrative handed to us? If we are unable to question, then we will always be trapped in a circle of never-ending sensation. But if we dare to raise critical questions, at least we have a chance to distinguish what is fact, what is manipulation. Are we ready to take that critical stance? Or do we prefer to continue drifting in the current of hysteria created for the profit of others?